The Summer of Glass Eyes, Stuttgart OPSEC Shadow Series continuation. Welcome to our Stuttgart community messaging platform called the OPSEC Minute Extended. On Mondays, we use this space and posted YouTube videos to share both a little OPSEC, or operations, security wisdom along with an occasional Marvel team-up bridge that ties into other regulatory security disciplines and policies. Please feel free to like, share with family or friends, or subscribe and check out the video of this and other OPSEC Minute extended stories on our YouTube at Secure Narratives channel. Simply click the link and let our stories capture your imagination as they play in the background while you tackle your morning routine and backlog of email. Now, enjoy a listen to this week's Secure Narrative. Prologue: The Map of Shadows. By late May, Europe was alive again. Airports surged with tourists. Trains rattled through alpine tunnels packed with hikers and students. Festival banners hung from stone streets that had witnessed centuries of celebration and conflict. But beneath the laughter and music, another network was quietly humming, invisible, persistent, watching. Inside a modest office building on Patch Barracks in Stuttgart, the quiet glow of monitors revealed a digital map of Europe dotted with thousands of blinking points. Each point represented a phone. Each phone represented a person. And someone, somewhere, was buying the data. Not just any people. Americans. Military families. Government employees. And travelers leaving Stuttgart for summer festivals across Europe. The system had a name. The Atlas feed, and it was growing. Act 1. The Pattern. Jessie Callahan had never imagined her job would lead her here. At 31 years old, Jess Callahan had the easy confidence of someone who had already reinvented her life once. Raised in Colorado Springs in a family of Air Force maintainers, she had grown up around flight lines, base housing, and the quiet rhythms of military life, but she never enlisted. Instead, she studied data science and behavioral analytics, eventually landing a civilian analyst position supporting USAG Stuttgart's security planning initiatives. Her talent wasn't coding. It was seeing patterns others missed. And the pattern she was staring at tonight was unsettling. "JB," she said quietly. Across the room, Mr. James J.B. Brooks, the USAG Stuttgart OPSEC officer, leaned back in his chair. JB was in his mid-50s, a former Army intelligence officer whose calm demeanor hid decades of experience in counterintelligence and security planning. "What have you got, Jess?" She zoomed the map. Clusters appeared. Munich, Venice, Barcelona, Prague, and one location flashing brighter than the rest. Pamplona, Spain. JB frowned. "Running of the Bulls Festival," he said. "Early July." Jess nodded. But that's not the pattern. She overlaid a second dataset. The blinking dots turned into red triangles. These are Americans whose location data appeared in the Atlas feed over the last 72 hours. JB leaned forward. "How many?" "Almost 3,000. He whistled quietly. Jess tapped another key. The map filtered again. Now the triangles concentrated into smaller groups. "Now this," she said, "is the subset that either works at Stuttgart or is connected to someone who does." JB went very still. "How many?" 46. Act 2. The Briefing. The next morning, the conference room at the Directorate of Plans, Training, Mobilization, and Security filled quickly. Security leadership across the garrison had been summoned. At the head of the table sat Colonel Edward Sanford, the USAG Stuttgart garrison commander. Beside him were the command's senior advisors, Mr. Alonzo Edwards, command security manager, Mr. Robert Gwinner, deputy garrison commander, Command Sergeant Major Christopher Melendez, the senior enlisted leader, Mr. Kyle Corey, the director of the Directorate of Plans, Training, Mobilization, and Security. Jess sat near the back with JB. Also present, Mr. Luke Frolick, the garrison's anti-terrorism officer. Sergeant First Class Kaylee Schrader, the anti-terrorism officer and NCOIC. Mr. Andrew Williams, the S6 Information Systems Security Manager, and Mr. Robert Taylor, the garrison's protection chief. Colonel Sanford opened the meeting. JB says, "We've got something concerning. Let's hear it." JB nodded to Jess. She stood, nervous but steady. "Sir, for the past 3 weeks, we've been tracking an emerging dataset circulating in several commercial data marketplaces." She pulled up the map. It's being called the Atlas feed. Andrew Williams squinted. "Ad tech brokers." Jess nodded. "Originally, yes. But the data quality is different." "Different how?" Gwenner asked. Jess clicked. Individual movement trails appeared. Precise. Minute by minute. "This isn't marketing resolution. It's surveillance resolution." A murmur rippled through the room. Luke Frolick leaned forward. "Who's buying it?" Jess hesitated. "That's the problem." She zoomed again. Multiple shell accounts. Crypto payments. But we found a pattern. Another screen appeared. Summer festivals across Europe. Venice Carnival extension events. Barcelona Sant Joan celebrations. Pamplona. The map pulsed. Wherever large crowds and American travelers intersect, she paused. The Atlas feed spikes. Silence. Then Alonzo Edwards asked the question everyone was thinking. "Jess, are we talking targeting?" She swallowed. "I don't know yet, but someone is absolutely tracking Americans, and they are doing so in real time." Act 3. The travel season. By mid-June, the Stuttgart community was already planning their summer escapes. Cheap flights, train passes, music festivals, beaches, historic cities. At the Directorate of Family, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, the director, Mr. Joe Johnson, joked that half the garrison seemed to be booking trips. But JB and Alonzo Edwards saw the trend differently. "Soft targets," JB said. "Large crowds," Alonzo replied, "and predictable movement." They quietly pushed enhanced OPSEC reminders across community channels. Avoid oversharing travel plans. Disable unnecessary location tracking apps. Limit public posting. Most people nodded politely. But that was because summer excitement is powerful. And despite the recent war with Iran and its many lingering effects, the world, at least from a distance, looked peaceful again. Act 4. Pamplona. Early July, Spain, the San Fermin Festival had begun. Pamplona exploded with energy. Music, parades, street celebrations that ran until sunrise. Thousands of travelers poured into the narrow medieval streets wearing the traditional white clothing and red scarves. Among them were 6 friends from Stuttgart. Jess Callahan, her co-workers. Lena Hoffman, age 29, a logistics planner from Wiesbaden. Tyler Grant, age 34, a contractor and amateur photographer. Marco Alvarez, age 32, a cyber specialist. Emily Park, 30, a travel blogger and army spouse. And topping off the crew was Samir Patel, 28, a software developer. They had planned the trip for months. Cheap flight, Airbnb, 3 days of festival chaos. Jess had hesitated about coming, but JB had waved her off. "Go live your life," he told her. "Just keep your situational awareness." Now she stood in the center of the plaza, watching fireworks burst above centuries-old rooftops. The crowd roared. The music surged. For a moment, she forgot about data feeds and surveillance maps, but someone nearby wasn't celebrating. He was watching his tablet, and 6 names on his screen glowed softly. Act 5. The Buyers. Back in Stuttgart, the discovery came from an unlikely place. Army Counterintelligence. 2 Army counterintelligence agents had quietly joined the investigation. Special Agent Daniel Kovacs, 42, a Hungarian-American counterintelligence veteran who had spent years tracking foreign intelligence networks, and his partner, Special Agent Marisol Vega, 35, a cyber forensic specialist who once dismantled a data theft ring in Eastern Europe. They had been tracing the Atlas feed buyers. Finally, Vega cracked one account, a crypto wallet tied to a shell corporation, registered in Cyprus, owned by another shell, then another, until the trail ended in a small consulting firm. Kovacs read the name slowly. Orion Strategic Analytics. He frowned. Never heard of them. Vega pulled up the employee list. Her eyes widened. Oh, that's interesting. Why? She turned the monitor. Look at the board members. Kovacs leaned closer, then cursed quietly. Because the names weren't random. They were former intelligence officers from 3 different countries. And one of them had deep ties to Iranian proxy networks operating in Europe. Act 6. The Real Plan. The deeper the investigation went, the darker the picture became. Orion Strategic Analytics wasn't selling ads. They were building movement profiles, who traveled and when, where they stayed, who they met, and most important, which festivals they attended. Thousands of Americans across Europe, including hundreds tied to military installations. Why? Colonel Sanford asked during the next briefing. Agent Kovacs answered bluntly. Because if you want to hurt Americans without attacking a base, he paused, you find them on vacation. The room fell silent. Act 7. The Incident. July 8th, Pamplona. Jess and her friends moved through a packed festival street. Music blasted from speakers. Wine splashed. Crowds danced shoulder to shoulder. Samir laughed. Best trip ever. Marco raised his phone. Photo. Jess smiled. But something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. Just a subtle tension. Across the street, a man watched them. He checked his phone. Their movement trail updated. Distance, 42 meters. Confirmation received. Target cluster acquired. Act 8. The Explosion. At 11:18 p.m., the blast shattered the night. Not massive, but violent. A delivery van exploded 2 streets away. It was a fireball, with glass raining down. There were screams and crowds stampeding through narrow alleys. Jess grabbed Lena's arm. Move. Chaos surged around them. Sirens began to wail. Within minutes, Spanish police sealed the district. Initial reports called it a gas explosion, but inside a secure operations center in Madrid, analysts saw something else. The van had been purposely parked exactly along the predicted movement corridor of a group flagged in the Atlas feed, including 6 Americans from Stuttgart. Act 9. The Revelation. Back in Germany, JB received the call at 1:30 a.m. Agent Kovacs didn't waste time. They knew where your people were. JB felt cold. How precise? Within meters. Jess and her friends had unknowingly been tracked through the festival. Their phones broadcasting location pings through multiple apps. Those pings were bought, aggregated, analyzed, and fed into the Atlas system. The attackers didn't need names, just patterns. Act 10. The Close Call. In Pamplona, Jess and her friends huddled inside a cafe as police searched the streets. Emily's hands shook. What just happened? Jess stared at the news alerts. Explosion 2 blocks away. Tyler looked pale. We were heading that direction. Jess checked her phone, then froze. Her map app showed her entire route through the festival. Recorded, saved, shared. Suddenly she understood. Holy SH, we weren't random, she whispered. Act 11. The Truth. 2 days later, the Stuttgart leadership gathered again. Agent Vega summarized the findings. Orion Strategic Analytics sells location intelligence to multiple buyers. She paused, but one client stands out. She brought up the profile. Covert procurement front linked to a militant network aligned with Iranian proxy groups operating across Europe and the Middle East. Their objective wasn't random attacks. It was psychological pressure. Target Americans, target tourists, create fear, avoid direct military retaliation. Soft warfare, Colonel Sanford muttered. Vega nodded. Exactly. Act 12, the Come to Jesus moment. That Friday, the garrison hosted an emergency community briefing. Hundreds attended. Jess sat in the front row beside JB. Colonel Sanford addressed the crowd. You weren't targeted because of your job. He paused. You were targeted because of your data. Phones, apps, location sharing, social media. Travel posts. Every piece of digital convenience created another window into someone's life. JB stepped forward. For years, we've talked about OPSEC as something for soldiers. He looked around the room, but this incident proves something else. He let the words hang. Everyone is part of the security picture. Epilogue, the network still watching. Weeks later, summer continued across Europe. Festivals resumed. Tourists returned. Life moved on. But inside Stuttgart's security offices, the Atlas investigation was still active. Orion Strategic Analytics had vanished. Servers wiped. Accounts closed. The buyers disappeared. But one final message appeared on a seized server before shutdown. A simple line in encrypted text. Dataset validated. Expansion approved. Agent Kovacs stared at it, then looked at JB. This isn't over. GB nodded slowly, because across Europe, millions of phones were still broadcasting, and somewhere in the digital shadows, someone was still watching. To be continued, episode 040. Thank you for sticking around as we continue testing the boundaries of an extended storyboard. Think of it as security training with a plot twist and a fresh way to both educate our team and connect with our military community. Subscribe to our YouTube at Secure Narratives channel. Hit us with a like and watch for our new updates. Also, if you have other suggestions or ideas, or are interested in a personalized name drop or your work center's inclusion to our tales, don't hold back. Send a quick note or use the interactive customer evaluation system to share your thoughts. We're all ears and ready to make things even better. So, until next Monday's OPSEC Manix Tended, keep those comments coming. Until next Monday, stay aware, stay connected, and stay engaged.